Hello, girls. Welcome back. I'm sorry my last video was cut a little bit short, but I do want to move on to explain some of the situations that are of global relevance and that are therefore important for global citizens. So I'm going to move on to show you what makes us global citizens. Okay, these are some aspects that connect us all together, that bring us all together as citizens of the world. Okay, and these aspects are going to help you think about situations of the world that you know about, that you say, okay, if I'm a global citizenship, what can I do to make this or that situation better? Okay, so let's move on. What makes us global citizens? Like I was telling you before, something that makes us global citizens is that we live in an interconnected world where decisions that happen in one place can affect people living on the other side of the planet. Okay, so what makes us global citizens? The facts that we are all connected, and that we are all connected by communication technologies, by migration, by movement of people, by movement of ideas, by movement of products, trade. Okay, so all of that makes us global citizens, the fact that we are connected. And I really like this quote from Martin Luther King that says, before you finish eating breakfast this morning, you have depended on more than half of the world. What does that mean? That just on your breakfast this morning, you had products that come from other parts of the world, not only from other parts of Colombia, of course, but maybe even from other parts of the world. Okay, so just the fact, where does your milk come from? Your fruit, your eggs, everything, your pancake mix. Where does everything come from? And it is important that you realize that we are very closely connected to other people in everything that we do in every single moment of our lives. Okay? So Martin Luther King was absolutely right. In every action, we are already connected or receiving things that come from other part of the world, and we depend on other people in other parts of the world for us to be able to have whatever we are having. What else makes us global citizens? The idea that as citizens of the world, we want to live in a world where there is social justice and equity, where every single day we have less people who are living in poverty, who don't have access to water or to food or to education or to home and a shelter. Okay? What makes us all global citizens? The idea that all human beings belong to the same human race and share a common humanity, and we are all of equal worth. That means we are all equally important, and we should have the same basic rights, and we should have the access and the rights to the same opportunities. Okay, that makes us global citizens, a concern for everybody else to have a fair life, to have a healthy life, to have a good life. Okay? So, in situations of injustice, we should always act as global citizens. We should be aware of what situations of injustice are happening, and we should do something about them. Okay? Even at a small scale. For example, when we see that somebody is being treated unfairly, when we see that some of the persons that we know do not have the same opportunities as we do, we should always try and make a difference. That is what it characterizes us as global citizens. What else makes us global citizens? The fact that we, as human beings, have the same basic needs, but we have many different ways of meeting them. That means that we are diverse. Okay, we talked about this concept last term. And what makes us global citizens? The fact that, yes, we are all humans, even if we have diversity. We have the need to eat, we have the need for water, we have the need for a family, for a shelter, for health, for food. Okay, and even if we share different characteristics, or if we live our lives differently, it still means we make part of the same human race, and it still means that we should value those differences or that diversity that we have in other people. Okay, so diversity makes us all citizens of the world, even though we share different behaviors, religions, nationalities, cultures, languages. It still does not take away the fact that we are all human beings. Sustainable development. This one is one that I really like, and it's basically what makes us global citizens: the fact that we all share the same planet. We all share and use the Earth's resources, and that affects the health of the planet and everyone that we share it with. Okay, so basically, we are global citizens because we live on the same planet, we share the same resources, and we have a responsibility over those resources, not only to take care of the environment, of course, but especially with other people who also need to use those resources to survive, not only in the present, but also for future generations. That means we have a responsibility as global citizens to take care of the environment for the generations of the future. And finally, peace and conflict. This means that what else makes us global citizens? The fact that we live in a world where we share both situations of peace, but where we also share difficult situations of conflict, like the very long conflict that we have had in our country for many times. What makes us global citizens? The desire to try and find alternative solutions to the conflict, to try and make a peaceful world for everybody else by taking even smaller actions, even in the classroom. If we have conflicts, which happen, of course, I'm not going to say that conflicts don't happen. In fact, they happen and they are important for society and for relationships between people to move on. But there are different options in conflict resolution. And as citizens of the world, as global citizens, we have the chance of promoting ways of solving conflict that are better for more people and that are going to help achieve a long lasting peace and to improve relationships between people. Okay? So basically, when we look at these different characteristics of what makes us global citizens, is that there are many situations like the ones that I mentioned here that are of global concern. So, for example, what is of global concern? Situations like how we share the planet together, situations of how we depend on each other. That makes us global citizens, just for food or for any kind of product that we want, for clothes, for shoes. That makes us all citizens of the world. The fact that we are connected and we need things from people on other parts of the world, just like our actions impact people all over the world. What other situations, for example, of social justice and equity? We think about poverty. We think about how some people do not have access to health, to food, to shelter, to education. Those are issues or those are situations that global citizens can take action on. If you are a global citizen, you are concerned not only about how we are connected together and how our actions impact other people, but also what are the actions that we can take to achieve a fair world, to make sure that we have less people living in poverty and have people with more education, opportunities, health every single day. Okay, that is something that should concern us as global citizens. We should also be concerned as global citizens on aspects of identity and diversity. How do we become a better world by learning to value diversity and not by thinking that a person who is different from us is less or is strange or does not deserve the same rights as we do? Okay, so that is also an issue of global citizenship, thinking about how we can make diversity valued and not reject diversity. Okay, another concern is how do we make our world sustainable? We haven't looked at the concept of sustainability, but it's basically how do we help our environment survive? How do we help our environment maintain future generations, and how do we keep resources for future generations? That is also that's something that should concern us as global citizens. Anything that has to do with the environment, taking care of it, making sure that future generations have the same resources that we have right now. How do we protect them? Wildlife, oceans, rivers, everything that needs to keep the planet and humans alive, as well as animals and other living beings that share the world with us. And peace and conflict. This is another topic that global citizens should be concerned about because as humans, we have conflict. It's something that happens to humans. However, conflict can be an opportunity if we know how to manage it, if we know how to handle it. It is important that we think of conflict as an opportunity that we have to make things better or to solve any kind of problem that we have. But something that we need to think about as global citizens is how do we make conflict resolution more peaceful? How do we make peace last longer? How do we make sure that people talk to each other and get to agreement rather than hurt each other through violence? Okay, that is also something that should concern us as global citizens. Okay, so all of these um, aspects of global citizenship that I just explained, I want you to think about those aspects to do the activities for the class today. One, you already thought about what is global citizenship. You also thought about what are the characteristics of a global citizen. I also want you to think about what situations of the real world do you think are important for global citizens to start working on. If you are a global citizen, what situation of the real world interests you? In what aspect would you like to make a change? Are you interested in topics that are related to how we are connected to other people of the world in communication, in trade? Are you interested in how our world can become fair and have more justice for the people so that we don't have so many inequalities, so many differences between the extra poor and the extra rich? How can our world become more equal? How can it be fair for everybody who inhabits our planet? Okay? Or are you concerned with topics such as how do we make diversity in our planet more valued? How do we stop rejecting each other, mistreating each other, or how can we build better relationships that allow us to embrace diversity rather than to reject it? Are you interested with a topic about diversity and identity? Or are you interested in a topic which is environmental, which helps us think about how to keep our world and our environment healthy for the future generations? How do we use Earth's resources to make sure that future generations can also make use of them and keep this planet alive? Are you interested in topics about the environment? Or maybe you're interested in topics about peace and conflict. What kind of conflicts do we have? What options do we have to solve conflicts? Is war and violence the best solution to a conflict, or are there any kind of other mechanisms to solve conflicts peacefully? So today I want you to think about what topic interests you of global citizenship, why do you like it, and what real life situation you think you would like to research about. What questions do you have about global citizenships? What do you want to know about global citizenship? What situations would you like to research about? I want you to think about that today using these videos, using the presentation, and these two videos are really going to help you answer the questions in today's online class.